What's up, you guys? Nick here. Just wanted to come to you explain some options that you have to get free money from the government if you have a side hustle, if you're a small business owner. First, I just want to kind of explain what's been going on because there's a lot of information out there and it's kind of confusing and things have different names and sometimes it's hard to know what's what. So basically, there's been 3.5 stimulus packages passed so far. The first one was funding for testing for the virus. The second one was protection for workers and paid leave if they wanted to stay home. They got that. Stimulus 3 is the CARES Act 1, which is the one that most people know about. That's where we got the $1,200 checks. That's where we got the $600 a week additional unemployment, the PPP loans, the EIDL loans. Okay. Now for this video, I'm going to focus on the EIDL loans and the PPP loans. Okay, so they passed the stimulus package, CARES Act 1, stimulus package 3, and in it they had $350 billion set aside for SBA loans, small business payroll protection program loans, which are PPP loans. And basically these loans were provided to incentivize businesses to keep their employees employed and paid. So how this works is you apply for it. I've applied for it and I've actually gotten it. You apply for it and you apply for the amount of 2.5 times your monthly payroll expense as a business. So you take your last 12 months of payroll, you average it, you multiply that times 2.5, and that's the amount you're eligible for the loan. Now this is a forgivable loan, okay? Which means it's basically free money if you stay within the guidelines that they provide. Now, when they passed the bill in Congress, it said that the money had to be used for payroll, rent, or utilities. That's the only things that it can be used for that are forgivable. However, since then, the SBA has interpreted this and said that of the money, 75% of your loan has to be used for payroll. And then the other 25% could be used for rent and utilities. So just something to keep in mind, especially if you're applying for this loan, that 75% of it needs to be used to pay employees. This money that's forgivable has to be used in the 8 weeks following the date you sign the paperwork at your bank, okay? So you have 8 weeks to spend the money, and then after that you can apply for forgiveness and prove where you spent the money. So if we do quick math here, you get 2.5 months of payroll, which is essentially, 2 months would be 8 weeks, so it'd be 10 weeks, okay? And you get 8 weeks to spend it. So if you spent all your normal payroll that you did pre the crisis, 80% of that money would go towards your payroll, and then the 20% could be used for other things like rent and utilities. So basically you have 5% to play with, which is a pretty small margin as far as what you can play with and still get the whole loan forgiven. So that's just something to keep in mind, is you get 10 weeks worth of payroll, you have to spend it in 8 weeks. And there's some stipulations on there. If you have employees that are making over $100,000, it's capped at $100,000, and any pay period in that 8 weeks, you can't pay somebody more than what, if it were annualized, would be $100,000. So if you're thinking, oh, I'm just gonna bonus my people, you could do that, but you just have to make sure that it's below what it would be if you extrapolated that to a year that's below $100,000 salary. So that's just something to keep in mind. Now, again, that's not in the actual law. That's just what the SBA is now requiring. So down the line, when these things are starting to get forgiven, we may see some lawsuits come out towards the government trying to get that changed back. But just so you can do what you need to do to get the loan forgiven, make sure you spend at least 75% of it on payroll. So they passed the stimulus 350 billion. I applied at 12:01 the day it opened, and I just got my money the Tuesday before they passed CARES Act, the interim bill. Okay, this is stimulus 3.5. And this basically refunded the PPP and refunded the EIDL because they ran out of money. So I got my money right before they ran out, and I applied at 12:01 the day it opened. So this money went real fast. People were applying real fast. I think after 5 days, they stopped accepting applications, and all the banks were completely like bogged down with applications. They couldn't even take anymore. I know Wells Fargo stopped taking applications. I think some other banks stopped taking applications. So it's really kind of crazy. It was a mad dash. But they passed another $300 billion for this program. So if you have not applied yet, you need to apply. Talk to your bank and apply. The other thing is, they're now saying that they're going to process applications. The government is going to process, or the SBA, is going to process applications that are sent from banks that have less than $1 billion of managed assets. What that means is if you bank with a big bank, like say you bank with Bank of America, Chase, Wells Fargo, some of these big banks, even though you may have already started an application with them for the PPP program, I would encourage you to find a small bank that has less than $1 billion cap and apply with them, because they are getting processed first. The big banks are being locked out for now. If there's more money, they will probably process some of those. But the best opportunity for you to get your loan is to go through a small community bank or small local bank that's processing these, but that has less than $1 billion of managed assets. That's just a little note that just came out, so you may need to re-swizzle some things, but it's worth it to get the loan. Moving on to the EIDL loan / grant, okay? EIDL stands for Emergency Injury Disaster Loan, okay? And so this came out, I applied for this the second day it was open. I really was kind of confused on the PPP versus EIDL. I thought they were both through the SBA. I thought it was one thing. So I applied for this kind of in error. I'm glad I ended up doing it because it ended up working out for me, but if you can apply for this, do. Now, right now, they're not accepting new applications. They're kind of processing the backlog of applications that they already received before they open it up, but you need to apply as soon as this thing opens. So I'll link where this will come up when they do open the portal again. But basically, there's two parts to the EIDL. There's the grant and there's the loan. When you fill out the application, it's like 3 pages online. It's very simple. And you're going to input the information. And then there's a box kind of towards the end that says, I would like to be considered for my $10,000 advance, okay? So this is a $10,000 advance. That's a grant that you do not have to pay back. And you check that box and you were supposed to get $10,000. That's the way the bill is written. The bill is written, you can request up to $10,000 and you get the amount you request. Okay, that's kind of how the bill's written. The SBA said, well, we'll give them $10,000 if they have 10 employees or more. Otherwise, we'll give them $1,000 per employee. So if you're self-employed, still apply, yes. But if it's just you, you probably will only get $1,000. They ask on there how many employees you have. You have to enter that in. That's what they use to base the amount they give you off of. So if you and your spouse both work in your business, you put 2. If it's just you, you put 1. If you have employees, you put however many you have, include yourself. You are an employee, and so put at least 1. Don't put 0. Although I have heard they are processing some zeros as 1s, since you wouldn't apply if you didn't have anybody working for you. The first $10,000 is the grant. Then after that, at some point in the future, the SBA is going to contact you. I have not been contacted yet, and you can apply for more money. Now, the additional money on top of your grant is a loan that you will have to pay back, and the loan in terms will kind of be laid out in the paperwork. I don't know anybody that's gotten that far yet, that the SBA has reached out to yet, so I'll let you know more as I learn on that. But so there's basically 2 parts. You get the grant, which is up to $10,000, and then you can apply for the loan later. And you can choose not to if you don't want to later, but definitely get the application in if they open the portal so that you can get that $10,000. I have 5 employees, so I got $5,000. That's just kind of how they're doing it right now. Now, that they originally funded that with $10 billion in the CARES Act. Okay, this is stimulus 3. This is the one that gave us the checks. Okay, $10 billion. Well, they refunded another $10 billion with the stimulus 3.5, with the refunding of the CARES Act. So they added an additional $3 billion for the PPP loans, and then they added an additional $10 billion for these EIDL loans. Now they're using that $10 billion, that additional $10 billion, to, like I said, backfill all of the requests that they've had. But Once they do that, they will open the portal for new applications. So be ready and apply for that. The third thing I wanted to talk about was the checks. I have not received my stimulus check yet. I have not filed my 2019 taxes yet. So if you haven't filed your 2019 taxes, you can file them. Make sure that your banking information's on there, and your stimulus check should get processed pretty quickly after that. I had only filed my 2018 taxes, and I did not have my direct deposit information on there. If you filed your 2018 taxes and you do not have your banking information on there, like I did, or if you filed your 2019 taxes and you don't have your banking information on there, you can go to irs.gov/coronavirus. You want to click on the check your payment status. And then below there, there's a get my payment button, okay? You're gonna click on that, you're gonna enter the information that you need. It will ask you some questions to verify that you're who you say you are, and then it will tell you when to expect your money. And if you didn't put in your banking information, like myself, it gives you the opportunity to do that so that you can get your check faster instead of having a check mailed to you, which you may not get until August or September, is what they're kind of saying. So you want to go irs.gov/coronavirus, click on those links, get to the page. Now you want to make sure that the information you enter, it asks for your social security number, that's easy, date of birth, that's easy, the street address. You want to make sure the street address matches exactly what was on your latest tax return. So if you put street on your tax return, you have to write out street. If you put ST, you put ST. If you put ST period, you have to put ST period. It has to match exactly, or you'll get an error that says it can't process it. So just know that it's based on your latest tax return. So you enter that, you click continue. It's gonna ask you for some information. You wanna have your latest tax return handy. It's gonna ask you for your adjusted gross income. It's gonna ask you for your refund or your payment amount for that year. You enter those things, then you can put in bank account information if you want that, and it will help you get that stimulus check faster. So far we've talked about the PPP loan. Apply, make sure you're applying through small local banks. Make sure that you're applying, that your bank has under $1 billion of managed assets. EIDL, right now it's closed, but as soon as it opens up, you want to apply. They're backlogging right now. And the other thing is, because they said originally in the bill that you should get $10,000 if you request it, and of course everybody requested $10,000, but now the SBA is only paying out $1,000 per employee. There's already a lawsuit coming from a bunch of businesses in Florida. I'm sure we'll see a lot more of this, suing the government for their remaining monies. I know that Nancy Pelosi and some other House Democrats have already said, hey, SBA, that's not what we intended. You need to pony up and give them the money. I don't know that it's a good % chance, but I think there is a chance that we see the additional funds. So if you were self-employed and you applied one and you got $1,000 instead of your 10, I think there's a small chance that they come back and pay you that additional $9,000. So another reason to get in, even if you're self-employed and you're like, well, should I really apply? It's only $1,000. It could be potentially 10. So get that application in as soon as the portal opens. Again, we don't know when that will open, but just be prepared and ready to go when it does. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you found this helpful or informational. CARES Act 2, which is what they're talking about now. I'll do another video on some of the options that are coming out of that. That is CARES Act 2, that's Stimulus 4 that has not been passed yet. Everything I've talked about today has been passed and is in the works currently. But we'll talk about CARES Act 2, Stimulus 4, and what that could look like in the future on another video. I appreciate the view. If you would, smash the like button and subscribe. That'd be great. I hope to keep bringing good content like this. Thanks.